Mars, keep your remarks, cause the artist ain't done with me yet. Cause I'm going through the muck and the mire, all of the hell and the fire. So when I come out on the other side, I will be such a desire, like a Picasso or a Van Gogh or a porcelain.
What's up, everybody? My name is Steph the Pharaoh. Today, I'm here with Luxic Vue Mindset. I have a very special guest that I'm honored to bring you guys. His name is Brian Keith. He's from Texas, but he's actually relocated. He's living in Indiana. I'm super excited just because I've been listening to his music for quite some time now. Literally, a lot of his music is great. But where I stand and where I'm at is the concept and the message of what he's saying. You know, here at Luxic Vue, I like to bring you people and also empower them. We can share the platform. This gives us the opportunity to bring unity to the table. You know, I believe in camaraderie. I believe in an abundance mindset. I believe in paying it forward and helping those out there that are in a position, you know, they're stuck or they're looking for growth. And I'm bringing you again, Brian Keith, and he has the message for you guys today. So Brian, like I said, you've been in every message. I'm like, bro, I'm so excited to have you on. I just think it's because you have, you know, such a powerful mindset and such a powerful message. You know, you talk about releasing insecurities and stepping forward and allowing God to handle all the rest. And even if you don't know what to do, you just kind of do it. But I understand that you didn't always have that mindset, you know, but I kind of want to hear a little bit about your story, man. You know, take it from the top.
From the top. Okay. So of course, my name is Brian Keith. I originally grew up in Dallas, Texas, born and raised. I was, you know, a child that was, you know, much of a loner growing up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had a dad, and my dad lived in Indiana, and so of course I was in Texas with my mom and my stepdad. So this is kind of how it all started for me on this journey of where I'm at today. So my stepfather was abusive to me. You could say I used to, when I get in trouble or it started at a very young age. At the age of 5, I will never forget the first time that my stepdad put his hands on me. I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten. You know how kids are in kindergarten. You know, sometimes they cut, you know, they talk a lot, play a lot. And so this particular time I had to stay after school 5 minutes because of course I was a talkative child. And so, you know, my stepdad didn't like it. So my stepdad used to do things behind my mom's back, like whether it was hitting me in the chest or making me do like, I don't know what kind of punishment they would call it, like to where you had to stand in front of this person and just sit there and not watch TV, or maybe go to bed without eating, and all these things like that. So, you know, so on and so on until I, you know, grew up some more. And from that place, I started dealing with, okay, of course, insecurities, not feeling wanted, not feeling loved, because to us, what a certain amount of time, like I said, he used to do these things behind my mom's back. And then as time went on, I started acting out, and he was like, see, you know, this is why we need to punish him and do these things. So it was kind of like he kind of suckered my mom into believing that this type of punishment that he was giving me was, you know, needed, you know, to the point, like I said, he used to lock me in attics, turn out the lights, and I would have to sit in the attic and just sit there until he decided to come get me. There was no way I can just get out.
Wow.
And things like that. Or like I said, he would hit me in my chest, or, you know, he would hit me in my mouth into where I would like bite my tongue and my tongue would bleed. Or even I used to, and of course, being in Texas, and I know that, you know, being in California, it gets hot.
Yeah.
It gets. He used to make me put encyclopedias in my backpack, and I used to have to run out in 100-degree weather. You know, those was the punishment. The punishment that he seemed fit to give me, you know, no matter what it was. And it was just innocent things. I wasn't a troublemaking child. I wasn't dealing in drugs. And I mean, like, of course, I stayed with my mom from the time I was born to about 13, 14. And I started kind of moving around and things like that. But like I said, you know, dealing with that situation sparked hatred in my heart, anger, and loneliness. And so from that place to getting to the journey where I'm at today, it was like I didn't think God cared about me because He allowed me to be in an abusive situation. I didn't think my mom cared about me because she just allowed it to happen, and I don't think that she did what she could have done to make sure that her son, her firstborn, was okay.
Yeah.
So it got so bad to the point where when I was 13, when I turned 13, I tried to kill my stepfather in his sleep. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so it's kind of deep,
yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate you going in depth, man, because that's what this show is. That Luxic View, there's beauty in perspective,
yeah,
and that's what it means. So I love the fact that you're so open. I can tell you're a kind person. You have a big heart. I love your energy.
thank
But
you.
I wanted to ask you. You mentioned a little bit about your childhood, and then you said that you were your mom's first. So you come from a bigger family, or is it just yourself?
No, I have, so it's me, I and then my sister that my mom had with my stepdad, and then of course my dad has other children.
Okay.
So I have one other brother, and I have one, two, 4 or 5 sisters. One of them, somebody gonna get upset if they, but yeah, and they're kind of all scattered out. Like I'm here, I have one of my sisters and my brothers here in Indiana. Of course, my dad is here, so I'm here with them. And
Okay.
then the rest of my siblings are in Texas. So yeah. So
Wow.
one brother,
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you went through a lot as a young child, growing up. And I mean, I can maybe not relate to an extent, but I grew up with a very hard dad. It made me into who I am today. And I'm kind of dealing with those things, personally up until now. I realize like, dang, I'm very similar to my dad in many ways,
yeah.
you know? And I think I'm able to tell you that because listening to your music, you talk a lot about how it kind of scarred you and how you're dealing with that as an adult.
Yes, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that when you go through traumatic things at a young age or early age, it's almost like I used to have to go to counseling, and they would classify it as PTSD. And most of the time
Uh,
when you hear that, you hear that term and that phrase used for people. That phrase used for people who have been to war
yes, in the military.
and in the military. And so, but people don't realize that when you are young and when you go through things, even as an adult, I got to be honest, it's not just about being young. Even as an adult, when you go through things, it's a war going on inside your body, inside your mental, especially when things that, when you've always hear negative things, that is a war going on against that goodness in you to say, okay, well, you'll never be nothing. So as far as people not telling you, now you start to believe, and you start to having to battle those mental thoughts of not feeling good enough, or nobody likes me, or nobody loves me. And if you never deal with those things, it starts to grow on you. And then you start finding yourself repeating a lot of the things that you went through. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And I don't think a lot of people have grace for other people or try to understand where people come from. They only judge the book by the cover, by the fruit
Right?
that they bear. You know what I'm saying? And they
Yeah.
don't take the time to get to know the person that's in the inside. Everybody's not bad. You know what I'm saying? You have people who just want to be bad, I guess, but there are a lot of people who go through traumatic things in their lives, and people don't realize. A lot of us, we can become selfish and only think about us. And when something bad happens, we want to victimize and demonize the next person. And I've grown to the place that even with my stepdad, I used to hate him. Like I said, at the age of 13, I was trying to kill him in his sleep. I was on crutches, went to the kitchen to get a knife to kill him in his sleep. And
Wow.
around that same time when that happened, there was just some kids on the news who actually did that and went to prison.
So you're like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Or did you?
Well, see, the funny thing about that, and I would say the God thing about that, I didn't realize until after that had happened. So when I was doing that, the only saving grace, and when I say God, I use it. When I mean God, like I mean that God intervened. If it was not for my mom stepping in, that would have been me. You know what I'm saying? So I was
Yeah,
expecting
yeah.
to still be asleep, but when I was coming around the corner to go into the room, my mom intercepted and tried to take the knife from me, and I accidentally cut her finger.
Wow.
You know, and a lot of that stuff I think about when, like, I don't know if you ever, like, when you hear some of my stuff or hear some of my music, like I said, during that time, I didn't think God cared about me. I knew that there was a God because people talked about it. You know, everybody has their own, experiences, but I didn't think that God cared about me. So as I got older, I started seeing those things that where if it was not for God, I probably would have been in prison or I would have been dead a long time ago. And
Yeah.
that's just from that incident, and then all the other things that I went through up until now, to where it's like, okay, I see the hand of God in those bad situations.
Yeah, because often God works through people.
Yes, most definitely. Yes. And so
And
for me, no, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, so you at 13, you knew about God, but you were kind of not defiant, but you were just kind of trying to find who you are. And in that moment, did you like go to church? Did you grow up in a home that like
So
went to church?
I grew up in a home, not necessarily that went to church like that. Like every once and again, of course, you got your Christmas saints and you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
your church goers and things like that. So every once and again, my mom would go. My stepdad never went, but my mom would go, so I would go with her. And then anytime that I went over my grandmother's house, if I was over there on the weekend, we went to church. But
Okay.
as far as me, I didn't want anything to do with church. I didn't. Like, again, like I said, I had anger and bitterness in my heart. And like, God don't care about me, whatever. Like, I'm not trying to hear none of what anybody is saying.
Yeah.
Especially when I was going through that stuff at the time. So
Man, so all this happened early on, and you had a change of heart. Your mom intercepted. Did you grow up with a lot of your family like in the home? I mean, is your stepdad and your mom like were you guys all raised together, or
uh,
just different homes?
my stepdad, well, as far as me and my
Yeah,
sisters,
you're
or
like siblings.
so all of my siblings are scattered out. So it was only when I was staying with my mom and my stepdad, it was only my half sister and my stepsister. So I had two sisters in the house down there. My dad has another daughter in Texas. And, I got to see her every once and again. And then my other siblings are here. And so even when I moved to Indiana, I was just kind of, from the age of 13 until I actually was able to get out on my own, I was kind of like all over the place. I was staying with different people. I was staying with friends. I was roaming the streets 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was just something I wanted to do. And I didn't, I was a angry youth, so I
Yeah.
didn't want to hear from anybody.
Did you get in a lot of trouble?
I'm not gonna say a lot of trouble, but I got into some trouble.
Okay.
Got into some trouble, especially when I moved away. Even when like I said, I've stayed with my auntie, I've stayed with my grandma, I've stayed with friends, and I would do things here and there. Being
Yeah.
young.
Yeah. Young, dumb. I was the same way, man. There's like I had a change of heart as I started getting older. With age brings wisdom, and you start to kind of look at things different. Now, I'm not going to say everybody gets that wisdom, because I believe like there has to be a part in you that truly wants that growth.
Yeah,
And it's hard to face yourself in the mirror and own up to like your own BS in a way.
yeah.
At what point was it for you that you started to realize, I have these inner issues on my past and how I view myself? Was it as an adult?
Yeah, I didn't get that till I was 20 years old. And I think that's when I had first gotten baptized. And at this point in my walk, I was staying with my auntie. And so they started taking me to church and things like that. And I started kind of seeing God in a different light than what I used to see him. And that's kind of when the lights came on, the
Yeah.
age of 20, but it still took some time
Yeah.
to get rid of some other things. But yeah.
It's definitely a journey, I'll tell you. I'm in a very, I feel like similar boat. I grew up in a family that was like Christian. I grew up going to church, but I feel like a lot of people would label my journey as like I was lukewarm, dipping my toes in, coming in, leaving.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandpa as a kid telling me like, you need to do this, you need to do that, give your life to God. And I remember being like 10, 9 years old and thinking like, yeah, grandpa, but you don't know like what I'm going through. Like I'll do that when I'm older. Like that was my mindset. I didn't want to study scriptures.
Yeah.
I didn't want to read the Bible all the time. He had flashcards for me, man. And I was just like, I'd read it just to like satisfy him. And then I kind of wouldn't. But now as an adult, I'm like, wow, like a lot of what he said, I'm able to almost kind of listen to that and reflect on it and be like, dang, that's what he meant 20
Yeah.
years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at what point for you did you start to see things different? Because you said I had my old mindset and then like the lights came on, but like, was that kind of almost forced for you, or did they just, was it like a seed planted?
It was a seed planted. So some people, like you said, you got the whole flashcard, do this, remember, and that's kind of like how my wife grew up.
Okay.
But as far as for me, with the with the anger and stuff I was dealing with, I really was not receiving from anybody. Like you couldn't force me to do anything. Like if you tried to force me, you were going to have a problem. It was not going to be nothing good,
It
So
almost was like, I was forced when I was a child, so I'm not going to be forced to do anything.
exactly. And so for me, it was more of a seed that was planted, and there was God strategically put people in my lives to kind of pull out that goodness and that love. And the person that I probably mentioned even in my music, and this one song called "Release." It was my grandma. Like going to my grandma's house was like my safety. Like she was the example of God's love before I knew really about God and God's love. So she would love me through my anger, through my, you know, spurts of, you know, just wilding out. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I would go downstairs, and this is when I was younger. I would go downstairs at my grandma's house, and I would yell, "I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!" And come to find out, there's a lot of stuff that when I was doing that, they didn't realize, they didn't know what was going on with me. And this was
Yeah.
before I just really started talking about it and letting them know what was going on. But the one thing that I would never forget, my granny used to always say, when I used to run downstairs and say, "I hate you, I hate you," she was like, "We love you too, little Brian." And like she would just show me love despite me being hateful. You know?
Yeah,
And
yeah, unconditionally, right?
that unconditional love. And it was, she corrected me when I needed to be corrected. I got a whooping when I needed to get a whooping, but it was nothing like what I was experiencing at home, to the point where even now, like my wife could tell you, I am a granny's boy. That I'm a granny's boy, and there's probably nothing to change that.
Seriously.
So it was just that I feel like that was the initial seed. And then, like I said, at the age of 20, I think that was the next seed. And then there was other people who came into my life to, and even during that time, I was still dealing with those internal issues, and I would still have my moments, but it was those people that were put in my life that kind of continued to water that initial seed and cultivate it and love on it. And that's what farmers do. That's what people who grow things do. They just don't plant the seed and just, okay, well, we're not worrying about it getting watered. We're not worrying about, the ground having the right
Wow.
nutrition that it needs for something to grow strong,
No, I'm
and
following you 100%.
people need that. People, kids, adults, we are all seeds. We all need to be watered. We all need to be loved on. We all need to be cultivated. We all need that connection. Even God, the word says, that it's not good for man to be alone. And that's the dangerous thing. When you start feeling alone, you start doing anything to fill that void that you have, and like that's my whole mission and the whole premise of why I do what I do. You have to know who and whose you are in order to walk a life of, I would say, a life of value. Because when you don't know your value, you'll settle for anything.
Oh my goodness, man.
You
If
know,
you would have listened, I literally just said that in an Instagram post right before we jumped on this. I was like, if you know who you are and what you stand for, you're not going to be following anybody by the wayside that
yeah,
doesn't or that's not in alignment with you. That I believe that's facts. My girlfriend says that all the time, and that quote she would specifically say, and I quote her because she would say it, and I'm like, you know what, like she would constantly say it, and I'm like, dang, you're onto something. Like I could follow you. And she's
yeah,
like, yeah, that's why I don't do that, this, because back then for me, I was kind of a yes man in my early 20s. I was in a relationship, we ended it, and I found myself free and just, well, all right.
yeah.
And I truly believe, and I'll tell you at a later date because I want to hear more about you, but like God intervened and worked through people to find me and to pull me out of the BS that I got myself into, for sure. Now, in the midst of like just your overall journey, you walked a line of faith, and I mean now you're wiser, right?
Yes.
When did you decide to continue to just overall like follow through with what you knew in your heart was like there, like your greatness? When did you step into your power, and what was it that pushed you there?
That's a good question, man. Oh wow. So I can't. There's not like just one thing that actually kept me going because again, so I'm gonna start here. So the first album that I released, and I'm still running with this concept. I'm working on new music and things like that. It's called From Here to Destiny. And so we all started one place, and to get to that journey, to get to the next place, there's certain turns you go. There's certain bumps in the road that you may hit. There's certain detours that you may have to take. So, like I said, when that light came on at 20, that was the initial, you know, okay, I'm getting ready to go on this new path. At first I was on this road to destruction, probably will end up in jail, just all type of stuff. But at this point in the road on this journey, I took a detour. I kind of got on this right path, was I would say, I
Yeah.
kind of got on this right path. And while I'm on this right path, there were still hiccups, there were still roadblocks, there were still things that was trying to get me distracted, to get me back on the road that I was originally on. So when I was on going to this destination, going to my destination to destiny, there were things that made me want to stop.
Like almost to make you lose your faith, right?
Yeah, to lose my faith just made me want to give up. Like, okay, I can't do this because initially, when people think about God, they think about God in a sense of you have to be perfect in order to be loved by God. So I started this journey. People say, okay, God, this got this, and trying to establish my relationship, prayer, things like that. But there was this thing about me. It was like I said, I was still dealing with anger issues. So there were times when I still got mad. There were times when I still did things that I shouldn't have done. And I would think to myself, like, man, I can't do this. Like, I can't walk this walk of faith, and I can't be perfect, and I just can't. I can't be God. I
Did
can't
you
be.
feel did you feel like an imposter?
Yeah, I felt like an imposter, a hypocrite. Like, just go to church on Sunday or Wednesday, and then I'm still dealing with things at home. But what I had to come to realize is that, and a lot of people don't agree, and it's okay. Like, I'm fine with whatever anybody believes, but according to what I believe and according to the Bible, Christ came to die for our sins because he knew that we could not be perfect. If we could be perfect, there would be no need for Christ, you know?
Mhm.
And so God, through my own relationship, not just listening to people, but spending time in prayer and reading and things like that, God already did the work that was impossible for us to do. Now, when somebody does something for you, what do? You kind of honor that person by, hey, is there anything you want me to do? Hey, is there any way that I can repay you or re-thank you, or just thank you for what you've done for me? And so I feel like that's the whole concept with God. God is just like, hey man, I just want a relationship with you. I want to heal all the places in where you've been hurt. Like I want to let you know that I love you first and foremost. If don't nobody else love you, I love you. You know that I care for you, that I have a plan and a destiny and a purpose for your life, and it's a good one, not one to harm you or to make you feel less than, but it's a good one. I just want to be in relationship with you. I want you to give me all of your problems, all of your cares, all of your worries. Don't worry about being perfect because I already did that for you. So when you establish a relationship with somebody, you start to, okay, well, if me and you talking here, if we
Yes.
establish a relationship and I know there are some things that offend you, guess what? I'm going to do my best not to offend you, right? Would you
Yeah.
say, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's the same thing with my relationship with God. There's stuff I still struggle with today. I'm not perfect, but at the end of the day, this is how I choose to repay God. This is how I choose to give God honor, is by telling people what he's done for me. I can't tell you to get saved. I can't tell you you got to do this or you're going to go to hell because I don't know your journey. I don't know what you've been through. So for me, it's like I take time to build the relationships with people and to love on people because that's what we need. We don't need a book or we don't need somebody telling us what's wrong and what's right and what's wrong. We, for the most part, with common sense, we know what's right and what's wrong. I'm sorry. If you were in your mom's house, your mom done already told you, don't do this,
Yeah.
don't do this. So we know this. So we can
100%.
you can't have one without the other. But what people fail to realize is having a relationship with somebody and getting to know somebody means more than anything. You can give
True.
me $1
That's
million
fact.
and I can blow the $1 million and ruin my own life. But if you show me how to gain it, if you coach me and mold me and give me the knowledge that you have, guess what? I'm gonna appreciate that $1 million more so than you just handing it and putting it in my hands. I might kill myself with that $1 million.
I mean, that's in the Bible too. I don't know the Bible scripture, but I know that there's also a quote that says like, "Give a man a fish,
Exactly.
he'll starve, but teach a man a fish, and he'll never starve again." Basically, but
Exactly.
I totally agree with everything that you're saying, man. But they also say common sense is not so common. Some people choose to continue to do the
Yeah.
bad, but that's of flesh, that's of the world. And I've been saying, there's a lot of worldly things out there, but I'm not of the world. I'm choosing to act and to move forward with my own faith. Like you said, uh, you don't know my journey, but the same for other people. And there's a lot of people that give religions and Christ and God, not bad names, but there are
Oh
people like,
no, you're right. When I have to agree when you say a bad name, and I was just talking to some people about this the other day. Like sometimes we as people can give a bad name or taint the name of God to other people. You know what I'm saying? If I
yeah,
if I'm telling you that I'm a man of God, and every chance I get, I'm trying to kill you, and I'm not even talking about just physically kill, but I'm
yeah,
trying to destroy you and tear
tear you
you
down.
down.
Oh, perfect.
Like that makes me think like, okay, if you say that you're a child of God, I don't want to serve the God that you're serving. So that leaves a bad taste in somebody else's mouth.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle because I know a lot of people. I know people that serve. I know people that don't.
Yeah.
I myself, like, I'm not in church all the time, but I do my best to live how I know how to live. I definitely, my grandparents, I mean, they're religiously in church all the time. I grew up, like I said, in a household that was Christian, and they still are. But there comes a time when, like I said, these conversations get brought up amongst friends and you're talking, and then they're like, hey, well, I got these friends that do all these things and like I don't quite agree with it. And all I tell them is, hey, look, you can't expect for that person to carry the flag of that religion and like be a perfect person, because nobody can. And
No.
and you can't share your confessions or your revelations with other people because they won't understand. You have to experience it for yourself, just like with what you're saying. I think that that's important, and all I wish is for people to get to a level, and I would imagine we're somewhere there, but we have an understanding. I would hope that people can experience that for themselves, because like you're saying, man, it's just pure abundance. It's pure love, and when you're at that place, you can then fill other people's cups. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes. And I think that's the thing. Like when they say iron sharpens iron, and also if there's not, so if I didn't have my grandma in my life to first initially show me the love of God, like I said, that's what I feel. And I continue to go down that path. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, oh, I'm a child of God. If I've never experienced love, how can I give love? If I've never experienced forgiveness, how can I give forgiveness? You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like what you said, I mean, my cup has to be full somewhat. It doesn't have to probably be full to the top, because you always can. There's always something you can share with the next person. But if my cup is empty, there's no way that I can nourish or rehydrate somebody else. So it
Yeah.
has to. I have to have some form and have to have some form of wisdom, knowledge, power, something, so that I can pass it on to the next person. That's just what I feel. That's what I believe.
Yeah, 100%, man. Now, in this, we're talking a lot about faith, which I love. When did you decide like that you wanted to pursue your passion in music? Did this come about early on?
Yeah, this so I've always been into music, fashion and entertainment,
Okay.
even before, coming to God. And so, I've always looked up to people like P. Diddy, Master P, Rick Ross, these people who they are in the music industry, but they are moguls. They run a business. They
Yeah,
built an
yeah.
empire. So I've always been in that type of mindset. And it kind of just, when I realized that there was more to life than just doing it that way, it was just kind of like, it was just like I went to the other side, instead of
Doing
trying.
it, can you clarify doing it which way? Like you're talking about being an employee or
Or no, just being it still. So when I say that, when I, like I said, I look up to these people, and most of the time when I hear their music, it's about drugs,
I see what you're saying.
cars,
I'm
clothes,
following.
women. Just who can get the most and who can get the most
Stuff
women.
that stuff that attracts the flesh and the
Yeah,
dimension that we're in. Yeah. Not our
exactly.
soul.
So when I realized that I can tell my story and still, you know, love music and still love fashion and design and things like that, when I realized that I can still do that, but I don't have to do it this way, which that way is very tempting, because that way is profitable. I mean, there's money in it, and when you're ruled by money, then that's what okay, go ahead. That's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do. But I realized that God would not allow me to do it, because he had a calling on my life, and he kind of showed me that as time went on. And like I said, there was times I wanted to give up and I'm just about to do it this way. Like, I don't even care. But like I said, there was something that fire was still being kindled in me
Yeah.
to keep me going. And no matter what I have faced, and no matter what I have dealt with, like, I've continued to be on this journey. And if my story and what I can provide and bring to the table right now can help somebody out, that who has went through similar things, or can understand and relate to what I'm talking about, like, that is the ultimate goal, and the reward for me is that I can turn somebody else on to what I was turned on to, despite what I've been through.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're doing what you're here to do, win souls over at the end of the day. I had this conversation with my grandpa And I actually told him the story that I just told you. Like, I didn't want to do all this stuff when I was a kid, but now that I'm older, like, there's a deeper calling. I like to think of my life as like a spiritual journey. I realize that, and this might be pushing the envelope for some, but we're wearing like these meat suits, bro. Like, we're spirits, and we got a soul, and that's the thing that's going to carry on,
Yeah.
not what we see right now. There's more than meets the eye. And I was just having that conversation with them, and I'm like, I never would have imagined that I'd kind of be in this position. Not that I'm like this perfect person or anything, and just like you said the same thing, but we're here. We feel that purpose, and it takes a lot of courage, strength, to show up every day and to continue to deliver. Because there's days when you're just like you said, I don't want to do that, man. I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't want to, and then you have insecurities on top of that and whatever else might occur. And I'm kind of just remembering all this stuff because I've been looking at what you've been posting, and you're spot on, 100%. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, can you, for the audience, break down your brand, BKS3?
So BKS3. So initially, I remember one day I was talking to my dad, and like I said, I've always been into fashion and stuff. So I used to hand paint clothes, and I used to design things and stuff like that. And so I was trying to come up with a clothing line when I was in school.
Okay.
And my dad was like, man, you should use BKS3, the name BKS3, because my name is Brian Keith Smith II. My dad is senior, and my brother name, he has the same initials as we do, BKS. And so my dad, when he said something about the name, I'm like, I don't want to use that. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
At the age of 20, when I was back home in Texas going to church with my auntie, I kind of just had this, I don't know if you want to say encounter with God. And so I started drawing. And so this logo that you see, I started hand drawing, and I put it on paper, and I was like, man, this keeps coming to me. And I'm like, and I'm gonna just use this name. But instead of it standing necessarily for me, my dad, and my brother, it stands for Brave Kingdom Servants of the Trinity. And the tagline, it says the lifestyle of kings and queens. And so, like I said, what I do and the message that I put out there, it's about knowing that you're royalty. This life of living as a child of God is a lifestyle. It's not just a Sunday or a Wednesday thing. It's not just going to church and listening to the preacher preach. Like, it's a lifestyle. It's from what I do at home to how I treat my family, to how I treat my friends. It's a way of life. It's not just
check the box.
Yeah, checkbox. I went to church this week. It's not that. It's deeper than that. And it brings about a lifestyle change. Just the same way with getting healthy. Like, you see me now, but I used to be 512 pounds.
I did see your videos, and I didn't know like the exact number, but that's one transformation. And this is no pun. This is no cliche. I was listening to your song Masterpiece, and I'm like, holy crap. You don't even look the same, bro. You look like a totally different person. Like, you're glowing like crazy. If you were, I'm sure you've compared, and you're just like,
oh yeah, every day I go back and look like, can't go back there.
But bro, you confessed in your music, this. I'm not holding myself here, basically. In Masterpiece, in your song Masterpiece, you just said like, hey, I know I'm a work of art, right? I'm moving forward. Like, what you see, it's not what's going to be.
Yeah, it's like I may look a mess right now, but every work of art starts out like that. And even the concept for that, one day I was at this church that I was going to, and of course, like I told you, I used to hand paint clothes. And so one day I was hand painting a T-shirt, and the first lady of the church came in, and she was like, "What is that?" He was like, "It just looks like you just going like this, and it just looks messy."
Yeah.
But when I got done with it, she was like, "Oh." And so when I thought back when I was writing that song, I thought about that. Like, everybody does not see what God sees. when God sees you, he sees you as royal. He sees you as chosen and holy. He's seen you as his special possession. But everybody wants to judge you based off of either where you've been, what you've done,
Right.
what you're doing now, but nobody knows the ending. Again, this goes back to the journey from here to destiny. Where you start at is not where you have to finish. If you have a goal and there's something that you want to achieve, like I said, it's a lifestyle change, even with health, even eating healthy, not just going on a diet, but changing the way that you do things for a long period of time brings about results, you know? And so,
Watering
like I
that seed.
yeah. You may start out, you may feel like you're a mess right now. You may feel like, this is the end of the world, but I promise you, you're gonna make it through it. For anybody who watches this, I know that there's somebody that is going through something at the time when they see this.
Yeah.
I want you to understand that it's okay, that you made it through things before and you're gonna make it through whatever you're going through now. And my biggest thing is to put your trust and your faith in God and ask God, like, hey, lead me through this. Don't worry about the other stuff. Don't worry about trying to fix everything because you cannot fix it. There's only so much you can do as a human before you run yourself crazy.
And at that point, I mean, we're just losing our mind and we're, stressed out. And
Yes.
I'm sure we've all been there, but my
Yeah.
mom, my grandparents, everybody, when I'm going through stuff, man, they're just like, they're that reminder for me, because when you're in it,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you're kind of like wishy-washy, like myself over the years, like when you're in it, you're in it. And that's the interesting thing. Now, at what point, following that journey, like, I know the initial start of making music, it's not one of those things where you're going to get instant gratification. So like
Yeah.
for yourself, like, were there times that you wanted to just like completely stop and you're just like, man, yeah,
Yes. Like, I got to be honest with the whole thing that I've been talking about now, with feeling good enough. Like, I deal with that as an adult. You know what I'm saying? Like, and those are still remnants and pieces of childhood hurt.
mm,
It just the same way it took to the work that it took to lose the weight. I was able to get it off. I mean, get it on like quickly, but it came over time.
yeah, yeah,
Over time, you start losing weight. So those things that you dealt with at any point in life, it'll take time. You can't expect to be perfect tomorrow.
hmm
So I guess for some people that may be their story, but for everybody that's not. And it's okay to have to go through a process in order to get better and be better. So when it comes to the music and stuff like that, there are so many times I just wanted to give up because I was looking at things from the perspective of how the world looks at things. You're not successful unless there's millions and millions of people liking your stuff.
right,
You're not making an impact unless you get big name people to co-sign you.
right,
You know what I'm saying? And that's far from the truth. And that's what I had to realize. And I still have to remind myself that, man, if God gave me this to do, if this is what's on my heart to tell my story, however creative, the creative way that I give it, that's what I need to do because it's going to help somebody. Like the story of people going fishing. You enjoy fishing because that's what you enjoy. So when you go fishing, you might catch one fish this time, but you're not going to give up because you only got one fish. You might leave and then come back another time and catch 10 fish.
right.
You might leave and come back and you might not catch any fish. But if you base your success and your happiness off of how many fish you catch each time, you'll give up fishing.
Wow. I mean, that can go for anything. People apply that as need
Yeah.
be. Apply that as need be.
Yeah, entrepreneur, like people who starting businesses. I follow a lot of people who do businesses. Like I said, I've always been into being a mogul and stuff like that. I follow people like Damon John and
Okay.
guy who started Fubu, and even, of course, like I said, P. Diddy and all these people, and I've listened to their stories, and it was not, I have an idea, instant success. There was failure. There was times where they got it wrong. There was times where they messed up and may have blew the money that they were supposed to reinvest into a business. Like you said, you can apply that in any area of your life, relationships, friendship, like all
Yeah.
of that. It's not just one thing.
Now, I wanted to ask you, and this might be personal, but from 20 years old, like at what point did you start to realize like that your own physical health for you was important? Because I know it obviously it takes a while to get to that point. And
Yeah.
when did you come to like that own understanding for yourself? Like, hey, because I mean, I've known you. I got introduced to you from just Luke Mind Power. That's how I found you, man. Luke has introduced me to a lot of great people, and I still continue to follow till this day. And I'm glad that I followed you way back when. It was, I think, early 2019 or early 2019, I want to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just continued to follow you, and then I feel like now, like our paths have crossed, and it's awesome. But seeing that transformation, it's not the easiest thing. Like like I said, I was looking at it, but I was giving you like praise, like, dude. I struggle sometimes with going like 20 pounds, dropping like that was my struggle in my life. The most I've ever weighed is 180, and now like I idle between like 165 and 170, but like I'm a healthy weight now.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me in the beginning to lose that. But like, bro, you have a platform to encourage people, and that's why I'm asking you that, because like I know a lot of people that like are struggling. Like, what was it for you that not only like you were able to confront that, but continue and persevere to where you're at today?
So I've always known, I was dealing with stuff even then. But I think I've always known I had tried different things. I would be encouraged one moment and be discouraged the next moment. But it wasn't until I think 2019 where I really just got serious about it and took my health into my own hands. It was like, okay, by any means necessary, this has to be done. I want to be healthy for my kids with the things that I feel like I've been called to do. I want to be healthy doing them. I don't want to be speaking, rapping, whatever, and then, pass out or pass away from a heart attack, because I wasn't being a good steward over my body, so I had to take initiative and was like, by any means necessary, this has to be done. I don't care if I mess up, I'll get back on the train and keep going.
Yeah.
And so that's just what it was for me. And like I said, so it really was in 2019 where I was just like, okay, I'm taking the keys and I'm doing the most drastic thing, most drastic thing that I need to do for me to be better. I can't worry about what anybody else is doing, what anybody else may think. I have to do what's good for me. And being consistent with it is just reminding myself. I go back and I look at them pictures. Like, I'm not going back there. Like, I can't do it. I can't go back there. So I continue to motivate myself by looking at where I came from. A lot of people say don't look at your past. The past is behind you. But if you forget about the past, you don't know where you're going. You know what I'm saying? If I forget this is what I used to deal with, I can find myself back dealing with a lot of those same things. So I constantly look at it as a memory book and as motivation, not to sulk, not to be sad, not to be sorrowful, but I look at those things as like, okay, I did this right. I did this right. I may have did this wrong. Okay, well, let's not do this again. Because if I do this again, this will mess up everything else.
Yeah.
So for fuel, as fuel to the fire,
Seriously, I mean, for the people listening, you can definitely do it. I mean, you said you were
512 pounds.
And where are you today? You don't mind me asking?
I think the last time I checked, I was like 270.
Oh, that's, bro, so much. Like, I'm so like, you don't need me to be proud of you, but I'm proud of you. you, God's giving you a gift, You don't need a cosign from me, but I'm cosigning you. You know, I love how you said that though, because a lot of people don't understand that. Like they need validation from everybody. And I've been there. That's why I'm speaking on it too.
Yeah.
And I think we all have, but there comes a point where you just have to stand in your own power, let God do the rest, and kind of move forward. What I wanted to bring up too, I was listening to one of your posts, and you said that you struggled with an insecurity of how you speak, but I think you're a great speaker. What brought that up?
Man. So first of all, and my my wife hates it, but she is an excellent speaker. Like she loves
I
talking.
heard her too. I heard her too. She's awesome. But
She
I just
loves.
heard you saying like, "Oh yeah, like I don't like the way I speak," and I'm like,
I don't know. It's a personal thing of mine because I don't feel like I say the right things, and sometimes I don't. But you know, it's okay. I just have to give what I know to give
"Yeah,
the best way that I can. You know, and sometimes we try to wait until we get it right, or we feel like we get it right to do something, and half of the time we'll just not do it at all because we never feel like we are 100% right, and
we're
that's
ready, right?"
already, and so sometimes it's just kind of like, man, I'm just, you don't know how much it was a struggle for me, like even the videos that you've been seeing to just put it out there because of that insecurity. But the only way to face fear is to head on, is to just do it, and that's what I'm learning, and that's that's all I can say about it. It's like I just have to face those insecurities and those things head on,
I ran into the same issues, man, over the period of like, the last 10 years. I wouldn't say, no, maybe in high school too, man, honestly, like I dealt with a lot. I think we all do. And you begin to find out who you are when you're challenging yourself in different ways. And I mean, I feel like I've continued to do that over time. And that's why I'm here. That's why you're on the show today, and vice versa. That's how I recognized you. That's how I see you now. If you would have never started posting music, I wouldn't even know who you are personally, and if I would have never began on my journey of starting my own brand, like we never would have crossed paths. So everything kind of falls into the place that it needs to. It's already done, we just need to do it. Um, Now moving forward, like I said, I love the latest album and a lot of your new releases that you've given. Um, what would you say for anybody right now that's trying to follow like their dreams and their passion? What kind of advice would you give?
Don't give up. don't Do not give up. Do not look at um whether somebody may be supporting you. Do not look at the likes. Do not look at the follows, people following you. If you have something and it's truly something that you believe in, you have to believe in yourself before anybody else will believe in you. And you have to walk in that confidence to where people just like, okay, this what you have going on is contagious. But if people sense fear, if people sense that you don't believe in yourself, they're not going to believe in you. I mean, somebody can come along and be like, hey man, you're doing a good job. But still, if you do not believe in yourself, there is no amount of recognition or co-signing that somebody else can give you for you to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to, no matter what you face, no matter how long it takes. I have listened to stories of people like Jackie Chan, Samuel L. Jackson, how they stay consistent in a career that to the natural eye was going nowhere. I heard the story of Jackie Chan. He didn't get his first big hit in the movie industry until he was, I think, in his 40s, almost 50.
Wow. Doing
He
all
had
his own
been
stunts,
doing,
mind you. Getting hurt.
huh?
Getting hurt in the process, doing all his own stunts.
Getting hurt in the process. And he had been doing, like, I went back and looked at a lot of the old movies he did.
Yeah.
He still had been doing movies and all of this other stuff, but he never caught a big break until later on, to where most people would have given up and called it quits and just been miserable for the rest of their lives. I see these stories of certain people who kept going no matter how long it took, no matter what it took, they just did it. And so that is my encouragement to anybody who has a dream, who wants to do something better, who wants to better themselves, even in relationship with people, with God, whatever. It's consistency. Consistency is key, and believing in yourself is key. And I don't know, maybe some people would say other things, but I feel like those are the two major things. Three. Keep God first. I don't care where you at. Keep God first. Believe in Him, believe in yourself, and remain consistent.
Okay. Believe in yourself. Well, obviously, God, number one, believe in yourself and remain consistent.
Yeah.
People better be taking notes right now because, like, honestly, just, hearing your story, how you dealt with the things that you dealt with. I mean, coming from like how you grew up and battling that now, man, like I can't even fathom, like I'm trying to comprehend, how that was for you and what that must have felt like, especially as you gotten older. When did you start to realize that a lot of those things had an effect on you? Did you know a long time ago, or was that with age?
I feel like it was with age, and like honestly, like even in the recent years, I have started to understand, sometimes even the way that I talk, when I talk to people, like if I'm upset, like I realize where a lot of that stems from and where it comes from. So now I think about the things that I say, especially in a heated situation. I try to think about, because I'm not saying that I'm perfect.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to ever get it twisted. I am far from perfect. I would still consider myself a hot mess just because having certain thoughts about things, like I said, just the way that I speak to people sometimes. So if I get in a heated situation, and instead of just saying the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm thinking about, okay, how can I say this, or how can I deliver what I'm feeling without being hateful or aggressive?
Mm.
So I try to season my words with grace. Like I try to, deliver what I'm feeling with love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, okay, this dude cut me off. Now I'm gonna give him the finger. Now I may want to. There's times where I may have cussed in the car and like, oh, this son of
Yeah.
But sometimes it's kind of like, I don't know if they're trying to rush to get somewhere, but they need to
Right. You
know.
start to like think of why they might be doing the things that they do and kind of like be
Exactly.
compassionate, right?
Because I would want somebody to understand, like if I was having a bad day and I was not being aware of how I was acting or treating them, to where they would be able to come to me and be like, okay, hey man, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And then if I explain I'm okay, well, it's like, okay, man, I didn't know, because you were kind of being snappy at me. And so that'll bring it to my attention. And if I'm being conscious and if I'm trying to be who I'm claiming to be, it's like, okay, man, well, I'm sorry. I apologize. This is what I was dealing with. Da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like I start to learn to just think before I act. And I think if a lot of people would do that, we would be okay in this world.
One thing I wanted to ask you was about your circle early on, because I I like to believe that environments also play a role in where we're at. So if you're trying to do something great, if you're trying to be an artist, for example, like yourself, if you're around people that naturally don't believe in you or that are talking down on you, trying to tear you down while you're on the rise, like that tends to cause a lot of friction. Now, for yourself, did you have a lot of positive people in your environment? You had already mentioned your family, your grandma, your aunt, but like when did, for example, this is the question on my mind: when did your wife come in the picture?
My wife came in the picture in 2000. So we met. So when I moved back to Indiana in 2009, I think we met later on that year in 2009. And during that time when I was up here, I was just kind of asking God for some good friends, some godly friends. And so it was me, her, and one of my other guy friends. And we just met up, started talking, and I don't know, it's kind of like we just kind of grew together.
Yeah.
And that was my circle. Like I've never really had a lot of friends. I've always been a loner. You know, if I was not hanging out with one of my cousins or something, I've kind of always been an outcast and a loner. So I mean, that played a big part in feeling insecure and not liked and overlooked and all of those things. But when me and my wife got together, we went through hell and back. But one thing that I would say is that she has been my number one supporter, like close to me. You know, I've had other people in my life that were, like my god brother and stuff like that, that, encouraged me and believed in me. But even when they were off doing their own thing, my wife has always been the one to help me to keep pushing, to help me to believe in myself, to tell me that she's proud of me, and
Yeah.
that's all I've really ever, even when I felt like I've needed more, when I think about it now, that's all that I ever really need. You know what I'm saying? Like a
Yeah.
lot of people have these people in their corners and everybody's here and everybody's, but as soon as something bad happens, a lot of those people take flight. And like I said, me and my wife been through hell and back, and she's never taken flight. She's made her, mess ups. I made my mess ups, but that's one thing that has never changed: the love and support that she has for me. You know what I'm saying? And so when I used to worry about, well, God, like where are the people who love music or want to do what I do? And I've come across these people, but they were always flighty. They end up going and doing something else or not standing on their word, and it discouraged me even through the process. And that's one of the reasons why I used to want to give up doing music and things like that, because people were kind of flighty,
Like people that would help you make the music, or what
or
specific?
people who would say, "Hey, I want us to do this together." Or let's get together and do this, and we start the process, and then all of a sudden they're just nowhere to be found.
Wow.
Or people who talk a good game, and then it's like
Don't deliver.
don't deliver.
Yeah.
It's those type of things that people can get discouraged with. And it doesn't have to just do, of course, like it doesn't just have to do with music. It can be with just somebody who's saying that, hey, I'm your friend, but anytime that we need to talk, like you're nowhere to be found.
Or a
But I'm
business transaction, same
or a
way.
business,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's a part of life, and that's what people need to understand, that those things do happen, but there is someone, or maybe even a group of people that are intended for you, but you have to remain consistent. If you don't remain consistent, you might not ever find those people. You might not ever come in contact with those people. And that's the thing with consistency. You have to first believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, we go back to that. You're going to give up. You might forfeit the dream, the destiny that God has for you if you give up too early.
Wow. That's so true. It reminds me of a picture that I saw. It's not a meme. It's more of like an inspirational picture that shows a gentleman digging for gold, and it shows
Mhm.
him giving up 3 feet away, and then it shows the other guy being like 3 feet in it,
Yeah.
because he didn't stop. It shows the other one kind of turned around, and the other one's like still digging.
He was right there. He was right there, and he gave up.
Seriously. I mean, there have been times, man, where I wanted to give up just on this journey that I'm on, building a brand of awareness, helping others, empowering people. Because, like you said, it's almost like there are other things that, worldly things, I should say, that are more successful, right? Like ways of going about things. And I
Oh yeah.
remember, like, when I first started, 5 years ago, I was thinking, I don't want to just have like pictures of women on my shirt. Like I used to wear stuff like that in high school, right? But
Yeah.
then I started, like, with age, you get a little more wisdom, and I started to realize like we're promoting things all the time. You know,
Hmm.
the way I saw it is everybody's a brand. Everybody has their own brand. You know,
Yeah.
everybody truly has their own brand. Like, why are we out here promoting all of these big corporations when we're all truly like our own individual brand? So that's where branding came about for me. But like you said, there's hills and valleys throughout the process, and there's times that we question our worthiness.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. That I think that comes natural. I don't care who you. I think even millionaires and billionaires today still doubt. they still question themselves. I
Yeah.
don't think that's something just that just fully goes away. I think you learn to master things. I think you learn to deal with things better as you grow in life. But
Hmm.
I don't think that's something that just goes away, you know.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you, what is some relationship advice that you can give? And I'm saying that because you're married. I seen you and your wife do some videos on your Instagram together. I think that's really cool to have. You guys speaking together. What would you say that has helped you guys?
Um Putting aside our own selfish desires. Like a lot of times when when you're single, you just living for you. You don't have to worry or consider anybody else. But when you start to be in a relationship, in a committed relationship, I would say you start having to think about that person more so than you think about your own needs.
Mm,
Now, there's a balance because you can get so caught up in somebody, you can just kind of forget about yourself and just be like a zombie living for this other person. So I'm not saying just throw it all in and just forget about yourself, because you can give yourself to somebody and it can be toxic and you can hurt yourself.
mm.
So first of all, you have to know that you're dealing with the right person. And then that person that you're dealing with, you guys have to have the same mindset. When you don't have the same mindset, which the word calls unequally yoked, but when you don't have the same mindset and the same understanding, it's like if you ever take a magnet and you know how sometimes they just go together, stick
Yeah.
together. But when you flip it over and you try to push it together, it just goes
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this. You can't do it. So when you're not on the same direction, negative, positives, all of those things, it creates a force that cannot be pushed together. But when you're on the same wavelength, it's just supposed to come together, sync together like a puzzle piece, like a magnet that's doing it right. So I would say you guys have to have an understanding. You have to consider the other person more than yourself. And when you start doing that, you will start to understand that this is how relationships is supposed to go. It's not one way. It's not 50-50. It's both of you giving 100%.
That's pretty powerful. It makes me rethink, just kind of where I'm at and what I've given, and almost challenges, and that's go ahead. Go ahead.
It's no, when you said it's definitely challenging because we live in a world of selfish ambition. Like we just do. Like we see it all the time. We see it on TV. We see it everywhere we go. And it's definitely challenging, but no pain, no gain.
Right. No
No
pain,
pain,
no
no
gain.
gain.
Man, you've dropped a lot of wisdom, Brian. I'm blessed that you're being able to be a part of episode number 10 of Luxic Vue Mindset. Right now, I want to open the platform up for you to speak on anything that you want to speak on. Maybe a message that you want to give the audience, anybody that's listening. I mean, you've given them a lot of information, but if you feel compelled to let them know any more, from what you want, aside from my questions, I'll let you take the floor.
Um, the biggest thing that I would like to let the world know is that first of all, you are not alone. You're not going through hardship and hard times by yourself. That God loves you, despite what people may say, despite what you may think. I know that God loves you, and all He wants from you is a relationship. He wants you to talk to Him. He wants you to give your hurt, your pain, your insecurities, your worries to Him. He wants you to be able to talk to him, even if you have to find somebody that you can trust, because God does use people to help lead you out of darkness. If there's somebody that you can trust and that you can confide in and that can pray with you and pray for you, I would suggest that you guys do that. You don't have to deal with what you are dealing with alone. You don't have to. I did it for too long, and sometimes even now I catch myself trying to deal with stuff by myself and realize that I don't have to anymore. It doesn't just have to be me. And so a lot of that, I give it to God, or I talk to the people that I need to talk to in my life about whatever the case may be. And it encourages me and it keeps me going. It's not always going to be sunshine, clouds, and rainbows.
Right.
It's not. That's life. Life is like a roller coaster. It has ups, downs, loops, So sometimes we just have to learn to enjoy the ride no matter what we are going through.
And that actually brings me to, well, thank you for sharing, number one. I think that that's pretty powerful. Definitely don't give up. Number two, what I want to ask that brings me up, because you mentioned the ups and downs. What would you say the biggest, I don't like to call them failures because we're not done with this life we have. You know what I'm saying? But what's the biggest challenge or shortcoming that you've had to face?
Overcoming myself, my thoughts, my own thoughts. Again, those insecurities and those remnants of things that happened to me as a child, just overcoming myself. It's like I can be my own worst enemy. I think that when you have the understanding that there is nothing or no one that can stop you from being great but you, I think you would be able to understand that you can defeat the enemy that's enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Wow.
you can conquer when you understand. And again, this is not who I used to be, but the fact that at the end of the day, all of my wisdom, all of my knowledge of self and just things comes from God. And so when God tells me that I have the faith, if I have the faith the size of a mustard seed, that I can speak to a mountain. Like when you think of a mountain, you see this huge, and you're out in California?
Yeah. So we have a lot of mountains out here.
You see those mountains, and in your mind, it's impossible for you alone as a human to move a mountain. But when God says, hey, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed is that big. It's so small that you can speak to a mountain and say, be cast into the sea. And when I'm saying mountains, I'm talking about those setbacks in your life. I'm talking about those things that try to tell you that you're not good enough. Those things that try to tell you that you're going to be alone forever. If you have the faith to start speaking like, man, I'm not going to be alone forever. I am the head and not the tail. God loves me despite what other people may think about me. God loves me. And when you start speaking those things daily, it's not to say that you're going to believe it right away. But if you ever heard of the law of attraction, when you are speaking positive things, positive vibes, people say that at the end of the day, I give honor and quote and credit to God. But when you do those things, you start to see a change come in your life. Because I'm telling you, I used to always speak death over myself. I used to be like, man, people don't like me. I'll never be nothing. I'll never be. But once I started,
like out loud,
yeah, out loud, even having those thoughts. But I used to say that stuff out loud. But now, just the same way as anything else is a process. So yes, I may have spent years speaking death over myself. The word says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So I was speaking death over
you're giving
myself.
me goosebumps right now. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to say that because
Sorry.
Oh, no. Your words, like, they're powerful, like they're resonating.
Hey, look, man. I'm telling you, when I say that it's all God and it's from a personal relationship, not because somebody said, "Hey, Brian, you need to believe in Jesus. Hey, Brian, you need to do this, or you're going to go to hell." And first of all, you don't know where I'm gonna go because you're not God. I can't tell you. I can't tell the gay person, the straight person, the robber, the stealer, the liar that they're going to go to hell because I don't know their end destination. I don't know what's going to happen for them tomorrow. I don't know what's going to, the change that may come about in their lives 2 weeks from now. I don't know that. So I can't put the stamp on where their life is going to be. Only God knows that. You know what I'm saying? So my
100%.
thing is, when I say when speaking life into people, even if it's somebody that you may not agree with, you still have to speak life into those people. You have to speak life over yourself, because if you don't, you're going to get what you speak, what you attract. If you're being hateful to people, guess what? You're going to attract hateful people. If you're being loving to people, guess what? You're going to attract loving people. Not to say that there ain't going to be some hateful people out there, because we still have free will.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
guarantee you, you will still attract what you put out. You get what I'm saying?
100.
So even when you let's say you don't have a good relationship, you have to wake up and say, God, I thank you. Even if you don't want to say God, but me, this is how I say it. God, I thank you for a good relationship. I had to do it. Me and my wife had to do it. There was times that we were just at odds, but instead of always looking at the negative of what the other person is doing, first of all, you need to focus on yourself. Second of all, you need to start, again, speaking life. Like, hey, me and my wife are going to have a bomb relationship. We're going to have fun. We may not be having fun today. We may have not had fun yesterday, but from personal experience, me and my wife were having fun.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We spent so many years angry and fighting with each other. I spent so many years depressed with myself, to where I had to gain that victory back by speaking life, loving on myself, loving on others. That's all I got.
Wow, man. You have my brain going so much. There's so many questions that I want to ask you just in what you said. Because you bring up the law of attraction, and I believe in the law of attraction, and that's not to say I don't believe in God. I think the two are intermixed, and I think you can almost just take the word, whatever label, whatever stamp you want to put on it. It's the laws of the universe. Like, it's what's out there. What I wanted to bring up, we talk about music. So I can go on the music conversation for a little bit, but first I want to bring up, have you ever seen the experiment that they do, that it can be conducted with rice? It's about how our words are powerful. You can get bowls of rice. Now, they say rice just because it molds fast. So you get rice, get 3 Tupperware containers, fill it with rice and put water in it. On a piece of tape, on one label, write words that speak life. On the other one, don't write anything. And on the other one, write words that speak death, such as I hate you, hate, whatever, ugly, angry. And on the other piece of tape for positivity, write smile, happy, things like that. Over a period of time, the labels of the rice that's in, each one, they start to deteriorate. And I'm not just saying this. I have a friend that did it and posted it on Facebook. After a few days, I'll send you the picture when we're done. After a few days, the container of positivity, it didn't mold. The other 2 did. The one that did not have any words on it molded almost as fast as the one that had bad intentions on it. Yeah. Because if we don't have a proper sail, we're just afloat. We don't know where we're going, right? Back to what we were saying. But that just goes to show how powerful words are. And you said this earlier. The tongue, would you say the tongue is the sword or something?
Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Exactly. I mean, I can't say it better than that, but those words, I mean, it's so powerful. And just seeing that, you don't need to be a believer in the main one in order to conduct this experiment. You could just do it for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And not that I don't encourage people to believe, but these are practical laws that in this world, they exist. Science wants to define it as science, right? But it says all the same stuff in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? But they're just different terminologies. And I think like all of it just, it's, you said law of attraction, what we sow, we reap. Like it's all intermixed.
That's why I say it's in the Bible. I just feel like people can read the Bible or read anything and they can take it and make it their own. So the law of attraction in the Bible, it talks about you reap what you sow. So whatever you put out is what you get. Law of attraction.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
positive vibes. Well, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So if you speak positivity, you know,
Yeah,
positive things. If you speak
exactly.
negative vibes, you get negative things. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's all in there. And you know, this is a world where there's a lot of things going on out there. And that's why I say for me, this is what's for me. What's for me may not be for everybody else. So, you know, I'm not big on pushing religion on people. Now, if you ask me, okay, I'm going to give you my opinion, what I feel, what I believe. And if you give me what you believe, whether I agree with it or I don't agree with it, that's just that. We're human. We all have different ways of thinking. We all have different thoughts.
Ways of comprehending.
Yeah, exactly. Ways of comprehending. Like even in school, like if you learn a certain way, don't mean that I learn that same way. You know?
Yeah.
So we have to play to what is good with us. Like, you know, what works with me may not work with you. What works with you may not work with me. So like I just said that to say that I'm not a big believer of pushing stuff on people that they really don't either understand or even want to understand. But now, like I said, if you ask me, I'm going to give you my personal thought, and that's what it'll be.
Now, do you believe that, I mean, have you done any research on like frequencies, the laws of like vibration, laws of frequencies,
Yeah,
and stuff like that?
I've come across a lot of that stuff. I've come across a lot of those things, and so just like with the law of attraction, you know, like I've came across that, and I really took a lot of what was even, you know, said in those type of things, or listening to Napoleon Hill
Hmm.
and things like that. But when I go back and I read what I read in the Bible, I see a lot of that same stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so that I think that's the only thing that for me keeps me grounded in where I'm at. There's times where I'm just like, you know, I would read stuff and not see certain people do things like in the
Yeah.
church. Like I said, that when we talked about that, giving God a bad name, to where when I first started coming into it, I was like, I would read stuff. Then I would go back and ask preachers and pastors, like, okay, well, why don't we do this? And they didn't have an answer for me. So it kind of discouraged me and made me want to just stop. But God told me to keep going. If don't nobody else do it, you try your best to live this out. You know, the
Yeah.
love, try, you know, those type of things. So for me, it's just, you know, I am open. I will never shut anything down because I don't know all the answers. You get what I'm saying? But where my
100%.
faith is, where my faith is where my faith is. And that's only because of experience, not because of research, not because of, oh, well, I'm because I'm not a scholar. Like when I tell you that I do not like to read or any of that, like I'm an artist. I have a creative mind. I like to create more
Mm.
so than I do like to do book work. So like when I said I've come across these things, I've done a little research, even stuff in the Bible, you know, looking up history. I've done those things, but at the end of the day, my roots is grounded in my experience, not just based off of what I've read. So that's the
Okay.
only thing that keeps me where I'm at.
For me, there was a point in time when I was living in, so I'm from California. I grew up in a town called Porterville. I was living in a city about an hour and a half up north. It's in the center of California. It's called Fresno. It's a lot of agriculture, a lot of, I guess you would say, I don't know if it's imports. Somebody told me I think they get a lot of exports from places. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But where I'm going with this, I moved to San Diego and I was in a very dark place. Just things that I was doing, and I found myself questioning a lot, like, why am I here? You
Yeah.
know, what does this world consist of? I didn't really lose faith, but I was questioning the how can you say it? Not religion, because I believe in God, but I was questioning the terminologies of everything. And I started to take a dive down, not like science or anything like that, but I started to try to almost prove to people like there's an intermixing of like science in the Bible. The Bible, like I get that it was written a long time ago, but there's a lot of practical things that you can literally apply to your life that speak life and death, you know? And where I was going more so with like frequency and vibration, if I'm going to give you this because this is like science, right? So they say that our body is like 60 or 70% water, right? And we can all kind of agree with that. But if I don't know if you've ever seen experiments with vibrational plates where they put sand on these vibrational plates and they tune the frequencies. They'll go from 100 to 1,000 gigahertz or megahertz, and you'll start to see these patterns form on the different frequencies. And you can look this up on YouTube. It's not what I'm making up, but you'll start to see these nice like patterns, very similar to the one that I have on my background, the flower of life.
Yeah.
And they say that it's a God frequency because everything is in numbers, numerology and everything, like it says it in the Bible.
So you see that 3, right?
Yeah, the spiral of life.
That spiral of life. So like when you say you come across those things and they've showed that and this was before I seen it. Like when I tell you that like I said, I like to create.
Yeah.
When I came up with that, or when God gave that to me, I'd never seen anything like it. So I was just drawing. I just drew that. Like I didn't look at anything. I just drew that spiral. And so later on, I came across how they were saying the spiral of life and how things happen. You know, you can see that in plants and stuff like that. And for me, I took that as another personal experience.
Wow.
That for some people, again, no knock to anybody else, no more power to me. But some people say, okay, well, it was the Big Bang. And I've talked to people about this. It's like, okay, people say it's the Big Bang. And I'm like, okay, well, when you read the beginning of the Bible and when it talks about God speaking and how when God speaks, it's a loud, authoritative, like rumble, like a shaking.
Yeah.
So when you think of the Big Bang, so if God said, let there be, and if they say his voice is like a bang, this is just thinking. This is just putting it together, whatever.
I'm following you though.
With that spiral of life, okay, let there be. And then when initially that thing was spoken into the universe and everything started taking place. So even when you look in the solar system, in the galaxies and whatever, you see everything going in a certain way. It's going in a circle still from one center point, from a center point, the sun that keeps everything in play. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like when you look at science and all of that stuff, like I do not doubt. Like there are some people who say, okay, hey, science has no, thing in the church. But first of all, who do you think created science?
Yeah. And I'm not like, I hope in explaining this, you're just following me because like, I'm not saying that like I'm a science person, but like when I did the research, like I was just like, bro, everything is interconnected. Like, how can people not see that? And if you go, it's crazy because if you go to my Luxic Vue page, I have the spiral on there. And in 2017, that's when that spiral came about for me, just because I was like, what we're not repairing, we're repeating. We're constantly repeating these cycles. But like when we're growing, we tend to see it from a different viewpoint, but it's still that same spiral spinning. But it's like, hey, I'm now this person. So there's just a lot, man. We have a lot in common. But I wanted to bring that up because in saying like, hey, we're 70% water, where I was going with that is that we're a frequency as well. And with negative vibes, negative words, that affects us physically.
It does.
Physically.
Yes, it does.
And if you in that experiment that I was talking about with the plates on the negative frequencies, the patterns are distorted. They don't look like the spiral of life behind me. They look all distorted, like if just somebody came and swiped off all the sand.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going with negative frequencies, because it's all literally in plain sight for us to see. Back down to that rice experiment. Like I told my friend, like, dude, I'm going to do that experiment and take a picture and send it to you because I've only heard of it being done. I've never seen anybody like actually do it.
Yeah.
And man, it's crazy to think that we're in a world where literally everything is interconnected like that, you know, and it's exciting to me because it only proves like, hey, I'm on the right path. You know, like for me, that's how I feel.
Exactly.
Now, give me 1 second. I'm just plugging my charger in really quick. But you know, man, we've talked a lot, and I know that we can probably keep talking for like another 3 hours. You know, we're one and the same in many different ways. We're alike in many different ways. I'm sure we're different, but I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to be a part of the show. I know it's been, you know, just a little bit just to try to get us together. We're on two different time zones, two completely different time zones, but man, you had a lot of wisdom. Guys, I'm going to link everything in the description of this video. Get connected with Brian. Check out his music. You will not be disappointed. A lot of it's motivating, especially the song 2020.
2020.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm gonna let that play on the end of this episode just for them, because they don't know what they're missing. Honestly, they don't know what they're missing. It's an awesome song by Brian Keith. I don't know why this is going off. Maybe because it is awesome and they know I'm telling the truth. But with that being said, man, you know, thank you for being on Luxic Vue Mindset, episode number 10. It was an honor. And we'll kind of leave it at that. Guys, remember, doubt kills, embrace now, and live your legacy. Until next time, guys.